Hi everyone, today is, let me just check my watch, Thursday, September 10, and I wanted to say greetings from the global economic north. I spend a lot of time in Canada. Now I'm in central East Canada, and today's video is going to be called governance, something like governance in Ontario, Canada. Honorable Belinda Karahalios. I don't think I'm pronouncing her name properly, but for about the last year, I've been watching this news media called Rebel News, and it's a Canadian news media, and they're independent, which is good. And I've been watching their reportings for about the last year, and I'm really impressed with them. They try and show you different viewpoints to a story, and then they put common sense into it. It's not like they're trying to sort of sensationalize stuff and sound like this robot and use these like trigger words to upset people and stuff. So I don't watch CBC in Canada, I don't watch CTV in Canada, and they have their little diversity people and their little puppets or whatever, but you can tell that they're scripted, and I don't learn from stuff like that. So the CBC was actually, they had, from the footage that I've seen, they had good footage back in the 1960s and the 1970s, and they were pretty good at documenting the ignorance in Canada. But nowadays they try and sensationalize things. They'll have like their little black face or their little India face, or some Asian Filipino face or whatever. So they're trying to look like they're accommodating, but when you look at the reporting, it's not very educational, and they actually receive tax money to fund their operations. So if you're supposed to be, and they promote themselves as public media, so they have to know that everyone in the public doesn't vote for just, for example, the Liberal Party of Canada. And that's all they talk about, is how great this party is, and then they'll have the odd reporting, but I don't even watch CBC because they're disgusting. So I was watching Rebel News, and they had this reporting about this Belinda Karahalios, and she is an elected person to the Ontario government, and she's conservative, and I learned from the Conservatives in Alberta, in particular the Ralph Klein version of Conservatives. And Mr. Klein was actually really good friends with my dad, and ironically, him and my dad passed away the same year, which was back in 2013. But from what I knew of Mr. Klein and what I learned from the Conservatives growing up in Alberta, I will vote for Conservatives. So, and if I was in the States, I'd definitely be voting Republican. So, this Belinda Karahalios, they were actually in Parliament. And for my viewers outside Canada, Parliament is just the name of our government. We have 3 levels of government. We have the nation level, then we have the province or state level, and then we have the city or municipal level. So this Belinda Karahalios, she's a member of the Conservatives, and just to add a little side note, I don't care for this premier, this Conservative premier called what's his name, Doug Ford. He's a very ignorant person, and when the Conservatives were elected, his campaign was this stupid Ford Nation thing, And he had a lot of followers that you could tell that they were not very educated people. And he gets elected, and then the first thing he's talking about is making beer accessible for $1 in convenience stores. Now, Ontario has very disgusting poverty. Like, you just sit outside for a day and just look at people's faces, and nobody has any hope in Ontario, which is really sad. So, you know, I'm kind of glad that I live in a place like this, especially coming from Alberta, Canada, because they need more people like myself who actually pay attention to things like this and actually work to make an economic difference in people's lives. Not this philosophical difference, but an economic difference. So this Belinda Karahalios, she's conservative, and I vote conservative, and they were voting on this Bill 195, and I don't know too much about it. I was just going based on the reporting from this Rebel News. And, you know, this Honorable Karahalios, she actually voted against it. And it really upset Mr. Doug Ford. Is that his name? Yeah, Doug Ford, the premier. And he kicked her out of the party. And I remember learning about this stuff in grade 5. I remember my social studies teacher, I can't remember his name, but I remember him saying, you know, pay attention to this thing called political parties, because they have this thing called party solidarity. And, you know, this thing with Mr. Doug Ford kicking Belinda Karahalios out of the party really concerns me as a person who also votes conservative. Like, I'm the Ralph Klein version of conservatives, and I knew Mr. Klein when he was the mayor of the city of Calgary, and then he was promoted to become premier of Alberta. But she voted against this bill, and basically with this stupid COVID thing, like, I'm gonna make a video about that, because, you know, there's a lot of problems with this thing called COVID, but this video won't be about COVID. But this legislation, this Bill 195 that I learned from Rebel News, was an interview with who was it? I think it was Mr. David Menzies, if I'm not mistaken, from Rebel News. And this bill gives the government the ability to, I think it's every 28 days, they can just come up with whatever they want, and they can do that for the next 2 years. So this Belinda Karahalios elected person said, wait a minute here, this is actually not very democratic, because it blocks the ability of the other members from the House to actually vote on the bill. And so it was impeding on this thing called democracy in Canada. So, you know, being university educated and going through some things, you hear about all this stuff, you know, in philosophical terms or in theory, right? But when you see it practiced in Canada, it's actually not practiced in Canada. So I don't know why Canada is promoted as being sort of this democratic place, when you start following some things, and Canada is not very democratic. It's not very respectful to constitutional rights, and that can be another video. So this Belinda Karahalios, she was actually kicked out of the party, so she's now an independent. So I sent her an email, and I sent her office an email, and you know, I said, thank you for voting that way, just don't leave the Conservatives, and I'm gonna read this bill, and I need to pay attention to stuff like this. I've just been trying to, like, you come across all this information in university, and you know, you have a lot of questions. And I went to a university that actually encouraged that. I didn't go to this university that was sort of advertised as being whatever. the greatest out there. I went to a university that actually works with the students, so there was a lot of things that I learned and a lot of questions that I had. So this Belinda Karahalios was kicked out of the Conservative Party because she voted against this bill, because this bill was not democratic. And it takes away the ability of other elected people, also from, I guess, other political parties, to give their feedback about this bill. And then it also blocks the public from giving their feedback to this bill. So I don't know what this Mr. Doug Ford guy is doing, but I'm not going to leave the Conservatives. It's like, I learned from Mr. Ralph Klein back in Calgary when he was mayor, and I'm not going to let go of that, because they have these different degrees of conservatives in the Conservative Party. So to Belinda C. Karahalios, thank you very much for just being ethical. I'm actually going to send it, when I learn a little bit more, I'm going to send an email to the ethics commissioner. I don't even know if they have one of those in the Ontario Conservatives, because something is really weird with the party. Like they have this other guy named Patrick Brown, and Rebel News has showed like he's now mayor of this suburban, kind of this other community outside Toronto, and it's called Brampton, and he is really abusing the public resources, and Rebel News had some really good footage on him abusing the resources. So that's another video. I want to remain respectful to Belinda Karahalios. What they did to her was wrong, really wrong. And I've met some of these conservatives, like, I've met white conservatives, I've met conservatives that look like me, and it just seems like something different is happening in Ontario. So they need to get rid of this Doug Ford guy and just tell him, go to the Liberals. That's how you're behaving, that's how you talk, that's how you conduct yourself, like you're a Liberal. And this Belinda Karahalios is now an independent, but I'm going to read this bill, Bill 195, and I don't know what kind of powers it's giving the government to do, but for the next 2 years, they can just pass whatever they want, they can do whatever they want for every 28 days. I think that's really abusing things, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be a civil society, right? And Canada is marketed as this place that is very welcoming, but when you see like a lot of stuff related to, for example, immigration, how the refugees are treated in Canada, it's just ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. So I will always vote Conservative, because I like their stance on law and order. But something is wrong with the Conservatives in Ontario, Canada. So I hope they have their ethics commissioner look into this. I hope they actually apologize to Miss Karahalios. I hope they do compensate her some money and then welcome her back into the party, because this Doug Ford guy shouldn't have done what he did to her. So I'm just making this video to show my support to her. I did send her an email. I haven't checked my emails yet to see if the office got back to me, but if I could say something to her, Honorable Karahalios, just stay with the Conservatives. You have very good ethics, and just keep doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of people that support you. So maybe you can become the leader of the Conservative Party one day. So on that note, thank you for watching my videos. If you have any comments, please do leave your comments, and I'll get back to you when I am able. Okay? I'm really trying to respond to comments, so and just be a little bit more timely with it. So on that note, thank you very much for watching my video, and have yourself a very nice day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you. Bye.